When someone points a finger at you, when someone tries to put you down, criticize you, or make you feel small, it's not just an attack, it's an opportunity. Because every time a finger is pointed at you, three fingers are pointing back at them. That moment of judgment, that moment of blame, that moment of attack is not the end of you. It's the test that reveals what you're really made of. People will always have opinions. They will always try to define you by your mistakes, your failures, or even just by their own limitations. The truth is, the more you step into your greatness, the more you chase after something meaningful, the more fingers will be pointed at you. It's the tax you pay for living bold. If nobody is criticizing you, if nobody is pointing a finger at you, chances are you're not doing anything big enough to matter. Think about it. Every leader, every innovator, every dreamer who ever shook the world was criticized, doubted, and attacked. They all had people pointing fingers, whispering behind their backs, telling them they weren't enough, they weren't ready, they couldn't make it. And yet, that very resistance became their fuel. The finger that was pointed at them became the spark that ignited their fire. When someone points a finger at you, they're handing you a gift. They're saying you're visible. You're doing something I can't ignore. You're breaking patterns, and it makes me uncomfortable. That's not a curse, it's confirmation. Confirmation that you're on a path worth walking. Confirmation that your voice, your vision, your action matters enough to stir up reaction. But here's the key. You can't let their finger become your prison. You can't let their doubt become your truth. You can't hand over your destiny to someone whose life is defined by fear and smallness. Instead, stand taller, breathe deeper, lean into it. Because the one who wins is not the one who avoids the fingers. It's the one who takes every accusation, every doubt, every word of blame, and turns it into momentum. So the next time someone points a finger at you, don't shrink. Smile. Let it remind you that you're alive, that you're moving, that you're doing something that matters. Use it. Fuel yourself with it. Because every pointed finger is not a sign of your weakness. It's a signal of your power. When people point fingers at you, when they criticize you, when they spread opinions about you, the first instinct most people have is to shrink, to get defensive, or to question themselves. But the truth is, criticism is not a curse. It is confirmation. It means that you are doing something that stands out, something that disrupts, something that cannot be ignored. If you were invisible, if you were average, if you were silent, nobody would have the time or the energy to direct their focus toward you. The very fact that a finger is pointed at you means you are moving, you are creating, you are stepping into a space where most people are too afraid to go. That finger is not proof of your weakness. It is proof of your visibility. The moment you realize this, everything changes. Instead of feeling crushed by criticism, you start to see it as fuel. Instead of letting it cut into your self-worth, you allow it to sharpen your edge. The critics who speak about you are acknowledging your existence. They are confirming your presence in the game. You cannot be criticized for standing still. You cannot be mocked for being ordinary. You cannot be judged for doing nothing. It is only when you push against the current, only when you stretch beyond the safe zone, that people will notice enough to comment, to doubt, to ridicule, or to judge. That is confirmation that you are playing a bigger game than the ones who only sit on the sideline. Think about the people who shaped history, who moved mountains, who transformed industries and societies. Every single one of them faced fingers pointed at them. They were called dreamers, fools, failures, and even threats. But those fingers were not signs that they were wrong. They were signs that they were different, and different is always uncomfortable to the world. Different shakes the comfort of those who refuse to grow. Different makes people who are trapped in fear feel exposed. And when people feel exposed, they point fingers. They criticize not because you are failing, but because your courage reminds them of the risks they are not willing to take. Every finger pointed at you is a mirror into someone else's limitation. When someone tells you that you can't do it, what they are really saying is that they can't imagine themselves doing it. When someone says your dream is too big, What they are really admitting is that their vision has been too small for too long. When someone accuses you of being unrealistic, what they are really confessing is that they gave up on their own possibilities years ago. Their words are not about you. They are about the boundaries they have chosen for themselves. But here's the power. You don't have to accept their boundaries as your own. Their criticism is not a wall to keep you in. It's a signpost telling you that you are walking into a territory they never dared to explore. So instead of running from criticism, run toward it. When people start pointing fingers, when the chatter begins, when the doubts rise, tell yourself, this is confirmation. I am on the right path. Let it be your indicator that you are no longer playing small. You are no longer blending in with the crowd. You are no longer hiding your gifts, your voice, your power. You are daring to step into the light, and light always attracts attention. The brighter you shine, the more shadows will try to cover you, but shadows can only exist when there is light. You are that light, and the pointing fingers are proof of it. You have to decide whether you will use that criticism as a weight or as a weapon. A weight will pull you down, make you retreat, make you play safe again. But a weapon can cut through doubt, carve a path forward, and build strength you didn't know you had. When someone mocks you, let it be the push that makes you train harder, learn more, act bolder. When someone doubts you, let it be the voice in your mind that says, "Watch me." When someone points a finger at you, let it be the spark that reminds you why you started, who you are becoming, and what is on the line if you quit. The world doesn't point fingers at mediocrity. Nobody spends time criticizing the invisible. Nobody writes hate about someone who doesn't matter. If they're talking about you, it's because you are alive in their awareness. If they're pointing fingers at you, it's because you've disrupted their comfort. If they're doubting you, it's because you are climbing to a level they can't yet see. That's confirmation. That's the proof that you are on a path worth walking. And the moment you fully own this truth, you no longer fear criticism. You welcome it. You welcome it because it means you are pushing limits. You welcome it because it means you are stirring energy. You welcome it because it means you are no longer invisible. Every finger pointed at you becomes a silent applause in disguise. It is life's way of telling you, keep going, you're shaking things up, you're moving the needle, you're not average anymore. And that, more than anything, is the ultimate confirmation. Every great leader, every innovator, every dreamer who ever stood on the stage of history, who left footprints so deep that generations after them still follow, faced judgment. They all knew what it felt like to have fingers pointed at them, to be doubted, to be ridiculed, to be dismissed by those who could not see what they saw. It is easy to admire them now when their names are celebrated, when their achievements are carved in books and honored in speeches. But in their time, they were outcasts, rebels, misfits, and even enemies to the status quo. Judgment was their constant companion, but it did not stop them. Instead, it became the background noise they learned to rise above. Think about the inventors who created machines that people swore were impossible. They were mocked as insane, laughed at for chasing illusions, rejected by experts of their time. Yet those same inventions are the backbone of the modern world. Think about leaders who rose with a vision of freedom, justice, or change. They were criticized as dreamers, agitators, or threats to order. Yet their courage reshaped entire nations. The judgment they faced was not evidence of failure. It was proof that they were ahead of their time. Whenever you choose to step into the unknown, to lead instead of follow, to create instead of copy, judgment will come. It is not because you are wrong, but because you are different, and difference is the seed of greatness. Judgment is the currency you must pay if you want to buy your way into significance. Nobody is judged for doing what has already been done. Nobody points fingers at the one who plays safe, who blends into the background, who never risks, who never dares. Judgment only arrives when you stretch beyond the limits of what others believe possible. It is the echo of fear from those who are too afraid to leap themselves. When people judge you, they are revealing more about their own insecurities than about your abilities. They are telling you where their line ends, where their courage stops, where their imagination shuts down. They judge because your vision makes them uncomfortable, because your ambition exposes the gap between what they are and what they could be. To be judged is to be noticed. To be judged is to be visible. To be judged is to be on a path that others are too hesitant to take. The ones who made the greatest impact in this world did not escape judgment. They endured it, they transformed it, they let it mold them into steel. Every insult became a test of endurance. Every doubt became a challenge to prove wrong. Every attack became motivation to push harder. Their power was not in avoiding judgment, but in refusing to let it shape their destiny. The truth is, judgment is inevitable if you choose to live fully. Whether you do something or nothing, people will always have an opinion. If you fail, they will judge you for not succeeding. If you succeed, they will judge you for having what they don't. If you take risks, they will call you reckless. If you play it safe, they will call you timid. The point is not to escape judgment. It is to recognize that judgment is irrelevant compared to your vision. The only judgment that truly matters is the one you place on yourself when you look in the mirror and ask, "Did I give everything I could? Did I stay true to my path? Did I live boldly, or did I let fear silence me?" Every great leader faced the weight of being misunderstood. And being misunderstood is painful. It isolates you. It makes you question if you are on the right path. It tempts you to water down your dream just to gain acceptance. But the very fact that people do not understand you is evidence that you are building something new, something beyond the limits of their imagination. If everyone agreed with you, if everyone supported you, if nobody questioned you, it would mean you are walking a road already paved. Judgment proves you are carving out new ground. The next time someone points a finger at you, the next time someone judges you for daring to rise, remember that you stand among giants. The same fingers were pointed at those who shaped history. The same accusations were thrown at those who broke chains and lifted humanity higher. Judgment was their shadow, but it never broke them. It only proved that they were alive, awake, and unwilling to settle. Judgment is not the enemy. It is the signpost that tells you are stepping into the realm of leaders, visionaries, and world shakers. A pointed finger is not a threat. It is a gift. It is a mirror showing you that your actions, your words, your presence have created enough impact to stir someone else's emotions. Most people spend their entire lives invisible, unnoticed, blending into the background of existence. But the moment someone directs their energy toward you, even in criticism, it is proof that you matter. Reframing the attack is the key to transforming pain into power. When you stop seeing blame or judgment as something designed to destroy you and start seeing it as feedback that you are alive, disruptive, and relevant, you reclaim control over your story. The attack no longer diminishes you, it strengthens you. The criticism no longer crushes you, it sharpens you. The finger pointed at you no longer intimidates you, it validates you. When you step into your purpose, when you act boldly, when you live differently than the majority, you will make others uncomfortable. People don't point fingers at silence, they point fingers at sound. They don't attack stillness, they attack movement. They don't criticize comfort, they criticize disruption. That is what your presence represents to them, disruption. You are shaking the ground beneath their feet because you are doing what they wish they could, or proving wrong the excuses they've been living with for years. Your growth exposes their stagnation. Your courage highlights their fear. Your ambition reminds them of the dreams they abandoned. So they point a finger, not because you are wrong, but because they are wrestling with themselves in your shadow. And when you understand that truth, you stop taking attacks personally. You stop giving their criticism power over your emotions. You see it for what it is, a reflection of their inner battle, not a definition of your worth. Imagine a stage where the performer gives their best, pours their soul into every word, every movement, every note. Some people in the audience cheer, others remain silent, and a few boo. Who does the performer listen to? If they allow the boos to dictate their performance, they will collapse. If they allow silence to weaken them, they will stop shining. But if they understand that the very act of standing on stage, of being seen, of daring to express, will always provoke a spectrum of reactions, then they realize that every response is part of the gift. Applause, silence, or criticism, all of it is evidence that they dared to show up, and showing up is the foundation of greatness. You cannot ask for influence and escape judgment. You cannot demand visibility and avoid criticism. You cannot dream of leaving a legacy and expect that everyone will clap for you along the way. The gift of criticism is that it proves you are no longer living in the shadows. The gift of judgment is that it shows you are pushing against the boundaries of the familiar. The gift of blame is that it teaches you resilience. What once felt like an attack becomes an education, a classroom where you learn emotional mastery, where you strengthen your discipline, where you toughen your resolve. Every time someone points a finger, you are given a lesson in reframing, in transforming negativity into motivation. This is why some people collapse under criticism while others rise from it. The difference is not in the volume of attacks they face, but in the meaning they attach to it. One person hears blame and internalizes it as failure. Another hears the same blame and translates it into confirmation. One person lets the finger paralyze them. Another lets the finger energize them. Reframing is the key. If you choose to see the attack as a gift, you disarm its power. The moment you shift meaning, you shift energy, and once you shift energy, you shift outcome. That is the power you hold in every moment of criticism. You can either allow it to shrink you or let it sculpt you into someone unshakable. When someone attacks your dream, instead of asking, "Why are they against me?" ask, "What are they showing me about their fear?" When someone criticizes your effort, instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" ask, "What in my courage triggered their discomfort?" When someone points a finger, instead of asking, "Am I not enough?" ask, "What is it about my actions that made me impossible to ignore?" That reframe transforms the way you carry yourself. It stops you from living as a victim of criticism and turns you into a master of interpretation. You cannot control what people say, but you can always control what it means to you. The people who achieve extraordinary things are not the ones who never get attacked. They are the ones who transform attacks into acceleration. Every insult becomes fuel for their fire. Every doubt becomes proof of their direction. Every accusation becomes evidence of their impact. They live in the reframe, constantly turning negativity into strength. That is why they seem unstoppable. It's not because life gave them a free pass from judgment, but because they stopped seeing judgment as an obstacle at all. They reframed it into a tool, a sign, a gift. You have the same choice. Every time you feel the sting of a pointed finger, pause before you react. Ask yourself, what is the gift here? What is this moment confirming? How can I use this energy to push further? That mindset shift alone can change your life. Suddenly, what once felt like opposition begins to feel like encouragement in disguise. What once drained you begins to feed you. What once silenced you begins to amplify you. The attack becomes the gift, the finger becomes the fuel, the critic becomes the teacher, and your journey, instead of being slowed by resistance, is accelerated by it. When someone points a finger at you, when they speak words of blame or judgment, the danger is not in what they say. The danger is in what you choose to believe. Too many people allow someone else's opinion to become their truth. They allow an insult to echo so loudly that it drowns out their own inner voice. They let someone's judgment carve limitations into their identity, and before long, They are living inside a prison built by words that never belonged to them in the first place. You cannot afford to let blame define you. You cannot afford to let the story someone else tells about you become the one you live out. Their judgment is not a prophecy. Their words are not destiny. Their fingers pointing at you do not have the power to write your future unless you hand them the pen. People will always project their fears, their disappointments, their insecurities onto others. When they point a finger, when they say you are not good enough, when they declare that you will fail, what they are really doing is holding up a mirror to themselves. Their words reveal their own limits, their own lack of belief, their own pain. But if you are not careful, you will take their reflection and wear it as your identity. That is how blame becomes a prison, when you mistake someone else's limitation as your own boundary. The most powerful decision you can make is to separate who you are from what others say, to draw a line between their voice and your destiny, to declare that their fear is not your truth. Every person who has ever achieved something significant has had to make this decision. They were told they weren't smart enough, strong enough, talented enough, connected enough. They were blamed for things outside of their control, judged for things they had yet to prove, criticized for things they had not yet mastered. But they refused to let those words sink deep into their identity. They saw the criticism, they felt the sting, but they did not allow it to take root. Because they understood that once you let blame define you, you start living small. You start hiding. You start doubting yourself more than anyone else doubts you. And the tragedy is that you stop trying not because you weren't capable, but because you believed the lie of someone else's judgment. You have to protect your identity from the words of others like you would protect your home from an intruder. If a stranger tried to walk through your door and claim your house as their own, you would not just hand it over. You would defend it, you would lock the doors, you would stand your ground. In the same way, when someone tries to walk into your mind with doubt, fear, or accusation, you cannot simply open the door and let them decorate your inner world with their negativity. You have to stand guard over your thoughts, over yourself, belief, over your vision. Because once blame settles in, it begins to shape your behavior. If you believe you are not good enough, you will stop trying. If you believe you are destined to fail, you will not give your full effort. If you believe their words, you will live as though they are true, even when they never were. The only way to break free from this trap is to remind yourself daily that someone else's opinion is not your reality. It may be their perspective, it may be their projection, but it is not your destiny. You do not have to accept every label thrown at you. You do not have to wear every accusation spoken over you. You do not have to surrender your identity to someone who cannot see your vision. The truth is, most people cannot see what you are capable of because they cannot even see what they are capable of themselves. If their vision for their own life is small, how can they hold a big vision for yours? If they do not believe in their own dreams, how can they believe in yours? You cannot let someone with limited sight dictate the size of your life. Blame will try to break you, but it can only succeed if you agree with it. Judgment will try to corner you, but it can only trap you if you step inside willingly. A finger pointed at you has no power until you bow your head and accept its authority. The strength lies in standing tall, in choosing not to shrink, in refusing to let their voice echo louder than your own. You must be the one to define yourself. You must be the one to declare your worth. You must be the one to set the standard for what you believe about who you are and where you are going. This does not mean you ignore feedback or pretend criticism doesn't exist. It means you filter it. You ask, does this align with my vision? Does this come from someone who truly knows my potential? Does this help me grow, or does it only seek to hold me back? If the words are meant to refine you, take them as lessons. But if the words are only meant to confine you, reject them. You are not required to carry the weight of someone else's fear. You are not obligated to live under the ceiling someone else has built. Blame can only define you if you allow it to. The finger pointed at you is not a command. It is a suggestion. You get to decide whether you accept it. You get to choose whether you will let it rewrite your story. You get to choose whether you will live small to satisfy their comfort or live bold to satisfy your purpose. The moment you stop letting blame control your identity is the moment you break free from the prison of other people's opinions. That is when you discover the strength to keep moving, to keep building, to keep chasing the life you were meant to live. Judgment is not the end of the road. It is the beginning of momentum. When someone points a finger at you, when they accuse you, criticize you, or try to pull you down, the instinct might be to stop, to hide, or to retreat. But the truth is, those moments are the exact fuel you need to push harder, to stand taller, to move faster. Turning judgment into momentum is about transforming what was meant to weaken you into the very thing that strengthens you. It's about taking the energy that comes from negativity and redirecting it toward your vision, your growth, and your future. Think about how pressure creates diamonds. It is not in the absence of weight that diamonds are formed, but in the intensity of it. In the same way, greatness is not born in comfort. It is born under the pressure of resistance. Every word of criticism is a form of pressure. Every doubt thrown at you is a form of resistance. Every accusation is weight. But that weight, when carried with determination, when channeled with purpose, does not crush you. It builds you. It makes you stronger, sharper, more determined than you would have ever been without it. Judgment, when you choose to use it, becomes momentum. The people who rise to extraordinary levels in life are not those who never hear "you can't." They are the ones who hear it and decide to respond with "watch me." They are not the ones who escape the sting of criticism. They are the ones who turn criticism into fuel. They take the same energy that was designed to stop them and convert it into acceleration. Instead of letting doubt paralyze them, they let it light a fire within them. Instead of letting blame define them, they let it refine them. Instead of seeing judgment as an obstacle, they treat it as a launchpad. That is the mindset shift that separates those who quit from those who conquer. Momentum is built through energy, and energy is not only created by support. Energy is created by opposition too. The more fingers are pointed at you, the more energy you have to work with. The difference lies in how you interpret it. Some people let the pressure of judgment crush them, while others let the same pressure push them forward. It is the same weight, but handled differently. And the decision rests entirely with you. You can allow judgment to become an anchor that drags you into doubt, or you can transform it into a sail that catches the wind and propels you forward. Every insult can become fuel if you decide it will. Every doubt can become evidence of your importance if you choose to see it that way. Every time someone says you can't, you can decide to make that the exact reason you must. Every time someone points a finger, you can decide to let it remind you that you are worth noticing, worth talking about, worth resisting. That awareness, when framed correctly, gives you momentum that nothing else can provide. Because support is comfortable, but criticism is powerful. Applause feels good, but resistance builds strength. If you want unstoppable momentum, you cannot only rely on the cheers. You must also embrace the jeers. Momentum is not built in silence, it is built in noise. The more noise there is around you, the greater the opportunity to convert it into drive. When someone doubts you, instead of questioning yourself, double your efforts. When someone mocks you, instead of shrinking, rise higher. When someone points a finger at you, instead of hiding, step into the spotlight even more boldly. This is not about arrogance, it is about resilience. It is about proving to yourself that no word, no opinion, no judgment is stronger than your decision to keep going. Every step you take after criticism is momentum. Every action you take despite doubt is momentum. Every victory you claim in the face of resistance compounds into a force that becomes unstoppable. Think about the stories of people who came from nothing, who had every reason to give up, who were told again and again that they would never make it. The common thread is not that they were free from judgment, but that they used judgment as momentum. Every time someone laughed at them, they worked harder. Every time someone doubted them, they built discipline. Every time someone tried to hold them back, they pushed forward with even greater force. That is why their success shines so brightly, not because it was handed to them, but because it was forged in the fire of resistance. You have the same ability. The same finger that points at you can either stop you in your tracks or push you into your breakthrough. The same words that were meant to break you can become the anthem that fuels your rise. The same judgment that was supposed to define you can become the raw material that builds your strength. It is all about what you choose to do with it. Momentum is a choice. Judgment is raw energy. When you combine the two, nothing can stand in your way. You cannot avoid judgment, but you can decide what it will mean to you. You can decide to let it wound you, or you can decide to let it wake you up. You can decide to let it silence you, or you can decide to let it amplify you. You can decide to let it slow you down, or you can decide to let it push you forward. The power is in the choice, and the choice is always yours. Judgment is inevitable, but momentum is intentional. Those who rise are not the ones who never face opposition, but the ones who turn opposition into the engine that drives them forward with unstoppable force.